ننتقل إلى أستاذة نوف البحيري.
حياك الله دكتورة.
حياك الله يا أستاذة نوف. أستاذة نوف حمد البحيري، ماجستير في اللغويات التطبيقية من جامعة نيوكاسل، حالياً طالبة دكتوراه من جامعة ستراثكلايد غلاسكو، يعني إذا نطقتها بشكل صحيح. أوكي. مدرس لغة إنجليزية في جامعة الكويت، ومنسق في وحدة اللغة الإنجليزية من جامعة الكويت. طبيعة مجالاتها البحثية في اللغة الإنجليزية، تكنولوجيا التعليم، أنظمة إدارة التعليم، وكذلك حتى في مجالات أصول التربية. حائزة على جائزة العميد العالمية للبحوث، وكذلك منحة دراسية حالياً للدكتوراه في بريطانيا. حياك الله معنا دكتورة نوف. And I understand that you would like to present in English. Okay. راح تقدم اليوم محاضرتها الدكتورة نوف بالإنجليزي درب العالمي. You may start. Thank you so much, Dr. Nouf, for being here.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to participate in this first conference. I would like to welcome everyone with us here on board, and it is such an honor, and I really hope that you're going to enjoy the upcoming 15 minutes. So let's get started so that we don't lose time. I'm just going to allow me to share the screen, and just here we are. Okay, sorry. All right, so thank you first of all for the introduction. I think I no further need to introduce myself, so I'm just gonna cut things short and start with my topic. So as Dr. Zuha mentioned, I will be basically talking today about my PhD proposal since I'm in my first year PhD education in the University of Strathclyde. When we start writing a research paper, I'm pretty sure that most of you would realize and know by now that you need to be very descriptive in terms of creating a title for a research paper. And let's try and test that. And of course, I'm also seeking assistance at this point if this is what I'm doing right now. So just by looking at the title, hopefully you will be getting an idea of what my topic and project and study is going to be about. So when you look in depth of the title, you're going to see that we start with the word online, and this is basically where we're going to integrate technology into our study. And micro-teaching is a technique that I'm sure most of you are familiar with. Micro is many of a teaching process, and this is something that we are going to do with the enhancement of technology. And the reason why we're doing this is to reduce the foreign language and anxiety in learning English. The only difference that we're going to deal with in this paper, on this study, is that we're going to look at it from a different perspective. And as you can see, the different perspective here is the socio-cultural perspective. And we're going to discuss this further, hopefully in the next 15 minutes. So every research, as most of you know, must have a research domain. So just by looking at the title, we can see that we have different domains in this paper. We have 4 of them in my case, but I'm gonna just exclude the 4th because of the time and also because of the research phase that I'm in right now. So the main focus of our presentation today is going to deal with the first 3. The first domain is going to be related to foreign language and anxiety as a term, as a definition, and how is that related to the study, and also the sociocultural theory, since we're looking at this case from a sociocultural perspective. And of course, most importantly, is how we're going to use technology and how is technology going to be enhanced in micro-teaching. Right, so in the next 15 minutes, you'll be watching hopefully roughly 22 slides in order to cover the following points. At the very beginning, we're going to talk about the goal. So basically what started the whole journey. Why did I think or consider this particular topic? The second phase is going to be the questions. So in order to write a research paper, you're going to have a very specific question in order to have the best answers. Later on, we're going to shed the light on the methodology, which is the rationale, basically your research plan and the procedure of how things are going to be done. and of course the methods. And there's a difference, of course, you might know, between the methods and methodology, where methodology deals with the whole procedure, and the methods is basically the tools that we're dealing with in order to have answers to our questions. Hopefully, by the end of these 15 minutes, you will have an overall idea about where I'm at right now. Starting with the goal, why did I start thinking about this? Why this topic and not anything else? So when you start considering a goal, it's basically, if we're going to talk about it academically, you're basically focusing on your aims and objectives. You're starting to look at your topic and see if it's possible or impossible to achieve. Aims, when we talk about aims, it basically means, what do I want to achieve? And in my case, I really want to know, why are my students anxious? This is something got me thinking ever since I started teaching, since I don't know whether I should say this or not, so just not to show my age, but anyway, roughly around 2008 as a part-timer, and then as a full-timer. And then when you think about the objectives, it's basically, how am I going to achieve it? Is this possible to achieve? Do I have the right tools in terms of methods in order to achieve it? And then the real part comes in, which is forming the research questions, having the very solid questions to start with, and in order to give you the right feedback or the answers. When I first started brainstorming, basically, the first question that would come to my head, like, why are my students anxious? What can I do for them? I keep repetitively hearing my students saying in every single class, and I'm pretty sure my colleagues from the same field would agree with me, that they will be saying things like, I have a very high GPA, like 4.0 or whatever, but I would never get a high grade. Just please let me pass with a D. And this is so devastating to me. Things like, I understand what's been said, but I really cannot reply. I can't answer your question. And it's not because of their IQ level or whatever. It's just that there is this endless fear that's keep chasing them, and I really wanted to know why. Also, they might say things like, I fear teachers' evaluation. But the one that hits me the most is the fourth one, and that is, I will never understand English. Now, this is very disappointing. Like, why are you telling this to yourself? Who told you this? And why do you think that you will never understand English? And you cannot imagine how many times I was hearing this, and every time I feel like I have to do something about it. I need to have answers, at least for myself, to understand the reason why. So basically, this is where the research questions comes in and offers, hopefully, future solutions. So if you are considering research questions, you're going to have to consider your main domains, and you're going to have to also consider what to include and what to exclude. So in my case, I started with the sociocultural part of it. So I wanted to know, what are the specific sociocultural perceptions that female learners, and in my case, I'm excluding male at this point, at Kuwait University are like, what are their perceptions of any sociocultural variables that might stop them from learning English? The second question is related to the foreign language and anxiety. So I wanted to test and see how might these perceptions of the sociocultural variables might contribute to their level of anxiety. The third question is, how could the integration of technology help female EFL learners to overcome any of their foreign language and anxiety? Now, as you can see, the post-its in yellow are the things that I'm excluding at this point. But if you consider the title, and if you consider the domains, and now the research questions, you're going to start to see that they're all woven together in order to come up with the same idea at the very end. Now, I'm very lucky. I might be one of the few who are lucky with COVID, because I actually made more of a pilot study during COVID. Being a former coordinator for 142, I started giving them the idea of submitting a project which is recording themselves and giving them the option of 2 topics to choose a picture and talk about it for 2 minutes. And I was really amazed of the videos that students were sending me. I provided them with the right applications just to help them to be, you know, more creative, start adding things, and they can basically do it from their iPads or mobiles. I wanted to simplify the process in order to give them confidence and create a video of their own at their own time with more confidence and hopefully with the right pronunciation. You cannot imagine the videos I've received. They were amazing. And of course, because of some ethical purposes, I won't be able to show any of these videos because it was just me evaluating these videos. And it's related to their, respecting their privacy. And this might actually be a future limitation in terms of the research, but who knows? As a way of appreciation, I started giving them a certificate of recognition just to show that you did a great job and you made it. And it hits me whenever I keep remembering the fact that there are some students saying that I will never learn English, and then I see some amazing videos from the same people who actually said that. It is quite astonishing. So getting into the literature review, you need to start at least by defining your main domain. So to start with foreign language and anxiety, I'm not going to get you into like very specifics, but really in general, we have Professor Horowitz, who's a researcher and author, also a professor, of course, in second language learning and teaching. She basically explained foreign language and anxiety as a distinct complex of self-perceptions. So it's something related to beliefs, feelings, behaviors that are in connection with language learning and how they might affect a student, a foreign language learner. And she also differentiated or subcategorized these types of foreign language and anxiety in terms of communication apprehension, fear of negative evaluation, and also test and anxiety. But whenever I look at these three different types, I keep on asking myself, but why? Why do they have it? Why do they have this from the very beginning? What's beyond these reasons? It's not just something, because when we consider test and anxiety and fear of teacher's evaluation, this can actually be applicable to other classes as well, whether it's math or social sciences or whatever. So it's not something exclusive to language learning, but what's stopping them from learning a new language? And this is when the term research gap comes in, which is when you have questions and you don't have answers to. It's a gap of a topic area where something is basically missing in the research. Well, if you consider foreign language and anxiety, you may go back to the 1960s, but in the year 2008, Horowitz, who's the same person who created the foreign language and anxiety term, started to believe that there are sociocultural origins. So we have an aha moment here for something that might trigger an anxiety, and it really requires deeper investigation. This is where my part comes in. I started looking deeper and see whether there are things related to sociocultural, variable or perspective. And actually there is a sociocultural theory. And for those who are experts in the socioculture, please don't hate me for not knowing much about it, but just a reminder, this is just the beginning of my research. So Lev Vygotsky, he's a Russian psychologist, and he came up with the term or the theory, the sociocultural theory. And he believes that this theory has basic principles, and they're all related to either society or culture. The first thing he believes in is that children construct their own knowledge, and also that learning is mediated. So it's not happening on its own. An individual must seek assistance or from either individuals or from tools as well, or as he calls them, symbols. He also mentioned something really important to my research, that language plays an important role in mental development, and that learning appears twice. And this is also very interesting. It comes into the social level and then in the individual level, and he always puts society first, or the social part first. And also, development cannot be separated from its social context. So as you can see, we have an idea now that everything is related to the society and culture. So this hits again. I will never understand English. Who created this in the back of their head, and why? And this is something has to be beyond learning an English language. Vygotsky also came up with the concept of zone of proximal development. And he basically thinks that there is a space between knowing something and not knowing something. And this space in between is basically led by either parents, friends, a knowledgeable person, or even tools, or any social interactions in cultural development. In order for a person to learn, or in his case, he was mostly focusing on children, but we can definitely apply it to adults. In order to achieve their knowledge, they can actually seek help or assistance from parents, friends, or in our case, teachers as knowledgeable person. And when we look at tools, we can use technology. So this is something that I found very relevant and something applicable that I can basically apply to my study. Looking at the brainstorming phase now, we need to connect things together. We need to look at foreign language and anxiety and sociocultural theory and put things together, consider the background, consider the context, and start looking at our aims and objectives. Now, the fun part, hopefully, when we get there, is the methodology, like how we're going to get things done. What's the procedure? We need to know and put things together and start creating a plan in order to test this and hopefully find answers. So how am I going to design the research? What methods will I choose? I went with the mixed methods where a combination of qualitative and quantitative is going to occur, because I believe that this study needs both. In terms of the qualitative, I'm going to run semi-structured interviews with the students, and the interview is going to be guided based on a research question. And of course, it varies from one learner to another, and the questions will vary accordingly. In terms of the quantitative, we have a foreign language classroom and anxiety scale, which is more of a survey. And this is going to be the quantitative part, and it's going to be distributed on two groups, the controlled group and the experimental group. And later on, there will be some sort of comparison between the two. In terms of the methods, how we're going to achieve this, let me get you through my thoughts. So we're going to have basically two groups. One is going to be the experimental, the other is going to be the control group, and both groups are from the same academic level. We're going to be selective. So let's say, since we have the qualitative part, we may not exceed 10, like 5 in each, but when it comes to the quantitative, we might go on a larger sample. How it's going to be done, if we're going to look at the micro teaching, or in my case, it's the experimental group, basically what's going to happen, there will be a presentation criteria uploaded into a learning management system for students to have a look at. And there will also be some short videos on different topics for them to choose from. Once they choose a video, they will learn some sort of pronunciation for particular words or a topic that might interest them. And then they will start sending me 2 assignments, and I will not call them tests or anything, because we're bearing in mind an anxiety here. So they'll be sending 2 videos of their own recordings after watching videos of native speakers. And then I will give them my feedback twice. And later on, at the end of the course, they will present it live in class. While the other group, which is the traditional classroom, the controlled group, they are going to be, everything is going to run as usual. So presentations, criteria might be distributed, whether paper-based or through LMS as PDF, doesn't really matter. The in-class practice is going to be with the teacher's guidance, and at the very end also, they're going to present live in class. Now, after having all of this data collected, we're going to do some sort of comparison between the micro-teaching and the traditional teaching, and see, of course, the difference. Now, after going through all of this, what is it that we want to achieve? What do we want to produce? What are the deliverables and outputs? Hopefully, my main goal of the whole study is to suggest a new teaching strategy, and that strategy involves technology integration. And the second important goal is to have a curriculum that is designed around social interaction. I think that we're going to reach very interesting findings that's going to let us reconsider the social interactions and put that in mind in our future curriculum. As a final note, me as a researcher who just started their journey, I would like to encourage everyone who has a question on their mind to start from today. But my final note is to search right, because sometimes when you don't search right, you might find yourself disappointed at some point, and you feel like, I don't want to do this again. It's the right question that really matters. that's a wrap, everyone. I hope you enjoyed my dilemma, and I hope I get to meet you again on the different phase and an advanced phase. These are my social media accounts, and I really hope that if anyone is interested, I know that time is tight here, but by all means, feel free to contact me at any point regarding this topic. Thank you, and I really hope you enjoyed it.